Alright, this is a review of the Royal Enfield Scram. It's a good bike. This is a review about the Royal Enfield Scram. Now, what am I going to say about it? It's brilliant. I really like it. I like kind of lightweight adventure bikes if you're looking for an adventure bike. I think one of the problems is we have a sort of industry that sells massive great adventure bikes to people. The risk is that, you know, it's sort of designed by people who haven't had to drag a bike out of a river. It's not about can you pick it up in a car park. It's, you know, the question is, can you pick it up after a 6-hour ride when you're knackered and when you're sort of standing in a stream and you've sort of lost your footing, and that's what happens on adventures. I really think that we sort of try and sugarcoat it and think that the biggest, most impressive bike is the one that will kind of dominate the landscape, and that actually the Himalayan comes from this this sort of philosophy of the opposite. It's as was said in the kind of making of the original Himalayan chassis, they wanted to design a bike that would kind of pay homage to the Himalayan mountains, but that would flow alongside them, rather than trying to dominate them. I think that's what makes it such an excellent bike. If you look on, you know, there's a massive Facebook group called Small Bikes, Big Adventures, and it's full of people who go on bikes that are not necessarily made for off-roading, but they're fantastic fun. And little bikes are so good at that. Obviously, I've taken the bulges off it and stuff. I think I'll probably do a separate video about the modifications that I've made to it. But the short version is that, yeah, it's quite easy to take 9 or nearly 10 kilos off the stock bikes, quite straightforward. And so instead of, I can't remember what the stock weight is, I think it's like 175 kilos maybe. So you can get it down to 165 without much effort. I've decatted the exhaust and stuff like that. I've done little things to it. Yeah, I'll do a separate video about modifications, but what I'll say about the stock bike is it's just brilliant. It's really good. There's a guy on YouTube who I really rate called Nathan the Postman, and he very wisely, I think, said of these things, you don't need to mess with them, you don't need to modify them. Personally, I totally agree with that sentiment, because the stock bike is just great, it's just well designed as it is. But I would add to that you know, the reason to modify stuff is because you want to, and for a lot of people like me, that's it's just part of the joy of it, part of the fun. I kind of modify everything that I buy. If I buy a pair of gloves, I'll modify it. So yeah, it's not about that. But I do agree with what Nathan the Postman's saying, that actually the stock chassis, the stock setup is really good, really well thought through, and it just makes a really great bike. So yeah, some of the features. It turns. People have said this about the Scram versus the original Himalayan, that the Scram with the smaller front wheel turns in nicely. My concern coming from a much smaller bike was that I would lose some of the fun, some of the kind of. That's the nice thing about little bikes, is that they bon mouille so easily. Actually, this has kept a lot of that really nicely, and it's down to the geometry. But my previous bike, you could turn it. You can turn it so easily because of the weight of it. This thing does weigh a bit more, but the thing that makes up for it is the chassis. The geometry is designed to make turning, as you begin to turn and the front wheel wants to turn in. It's not snatchy, but it's enough to make scooting around really, really easy. Speed, obviously this thing's not mega fast, but it will really happily sit on the motorway at 80. Really happy overtaking. There's you know, videos on YouTube about how it can take a long time to get up to speed. That's not been my experience. I think it gets up to speed pretty quick. Yeah, having ridden, so I've ridden a lot of bikes like I don't know, BMW GS and a Kawasaki Z650 and sort of Suzuki's, and I rode a Harley through a French meadow, but I don't think that counts. But having ridden lots of different bikes over the years, I think the thing that the Himalayan does really nicely is it's a really nice jack of all trades, and that can be used as an insult, you know, jack of all trades and master of none. But actually, the second half of that phrase is better than master of one, and we forget that. We forget that having that all-rounded kind of groundedness and the ability to be used in all kinds of different stuff is fantastic. So another thing I'll say about this torque is that it's really surprised me. A lot of reviews have said that you know, it's got a kind of tractoring ability to it, which I thought, oh, that'll be interesting to try out. And the first time I took this thing off road, I was amazed at the really low end torque. I was taking it on the single track that was quite technical, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. It just keeps going. So I thought, for the next 100 meters, what I'll do is I won't rev it at all, and I won't use the clutch. I'll just leave it in first gear, and we'll see at what point it kind of conks out. And it just kept going. It was unbelievable. It was a slight incline on this really technical thing, but yeah, I didn't use the throttle at all. It just kept going. It did conk out eventually, but I was laughing with I just disbelief at how much it keeps going. What a lot of people have said that about the tractoring ability of it, so that won't be new news. But the thing that people don't seem to say is that actually that tractoring thing is really good on road as well. If you're filtering between traffic and you're not having to play with the clutch and get the throttle balance just right, on a much more powerful bike, it's a lot of effort filtering, let alone the fact that it's a bigger bike will be more heavy and more effort to kind of wrangle through traffic. Whereas on this thing, yeah, you can just leave it in second gear and it will just go at about what feels like about 10 RPM. It's brilliant, really good for that. It has a kind of agricultural feel to it throughout all of the design. It gives you that confidence that, if you are on a real adventure, if you're in Kazakhstan or Botswana or whatever, and something on it breaks because you smack into something, or the clutch fails or whatever, you do have that confidence that you could go into a village and get it going again, with a MIG welder. And that is one of the real appeals to me of Royal Enfield bikes. There's a great video on YouTube with Guy Martin doing that, getting across a bit of India I think he's on an Interceptor or a Continental or something. Anyway, I think it's an Interceptor. Anyway, he's on one of Royal Enfield's kind of bigger bikes. And yeah, he breaks a bit of it and he just goes into a kind of roadside garage and borrows their stick welder and just welds it. And that's part of the kind of beauty of a real adventure, is that stuff is going to go wrong. If you haven't got a support crew with you, if you haven't got a BMW technician with you who's going to fix your GS, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed with a lot of bikes that are marketed, and it is marketing, they're marketed as adventure bikes. The reality is, I wouldn't go near an adventure on some of these massive, like 230 to 300 kilogram bikes. Unbelievable weight, those things. The truth is that the adventure is us. It's not about the bike, it's about us. It's about the how do we live and how do we interact with this crazy environment, beautiful environment wherever we find ourselves. And we can't package that. We can't kind of go, okay, this bike will give you this life. We've got that the wrong way around. We seem to have sort of forgotten that actually the life is kind of down to us. And without getting too sort of philosophical about it, I really would recommend that people choose the kind of equipment for the task. And I cannot see, having ridden a BMW GS 750, which has got an 850cc engine on it, having ridden that for a bit, I just couldn't see me pulling it out of a river. I've said this before, but getting onto a BMW GS is like getting onto the roof of a narrowboat. It's like sitting on the roof of a barge. It's just massive. Great for touring, probably. Great for touring, but not for steering or any of the kind of fun things that you get from small bikes. I would much rather have a Honda Cub than a Honda Africa Twin. Again, amazing bikes, aren't they? They're all amazing, but there's so many amazing bikes that are available. I really, really would recommend this one, definitely. If you're going to actually go on adventures, or even if you're just going to commute, it's just a great commuter, and it will go through the winter. I use my bikes through the winter, and yeah, it's perfect for that. It's brilliant. Again, it's down to you. Are you going to ride through the winter? That's the question. If you're just going to put slicks on it and have a bike that you polish every day, then maybe that's not going to work. I had a chat with a guy who had a Honda Africa Twin. Amazing adventure bike. What an incredible bike that is. And but very specific. There's only certain adventures that it would really suit. And I said to the guy, where have you taken it? Where have you taken your gigantic Honda Africa Twin? And he said to me, I was hoping that he'd say, Namibia or Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan or whatever. And he said, I'd never take it off-road. Why have you got a Honda Africa Twin then? What are you thinking? I spoke to another guy who had a Triumph Tiger. Again, incredible bike. And he just sold it when I was talking to him. And I was like, why did you sell it? And he said he had 2 years with that bike, and for 2 years it sat in his shed looking out the window at him, and it made him feel guilty. And he had this kind of plan, this sort of dream of going on an adventure. This dream of just going touring around Europe. So not even like crazy adventure, but just, just do a bit of touring around Europe with a couple of mates. And he sort of never quite got around to it. And every time he looked out to his shed, he could see through the window this Triumph Tiger just looking at him, crying. And that's the reality. We have a bit of a bike industry that sells the sort of aspirational machine. And we need to get over those first hurdles of what's actually stopping us from living life. We need to begin with wherever helps you to live that life that you aspire to. And very often buying the stuff's not going to fix it. Anyway, I'll stop going on about it. Or will I? No, I'll carry on. So yeah, the Royal Enfield Scram. It's good for comfortably over 80 miles an hour, the stock bike. I've been modifying it. I'll do a separate video about some of the modifications that I've made on it. It's sort of flickable. It's great off-road. If you're someone who's never done any off-roading, I'd really recommend it. Mostly for safety, as in the lessons that you will learn by off-roading on any bike, anything that you learn off-road about how to let a bike kind of do its thing, how to kind of, it's got ABS, but semi-lock up the rear tyre to sort of stabilise yourself a little bit. What to do when you sort of start to lose control, when the bike starts to get a bit out of control. Those skills that you learn off-road, even at very, very low speeds, those skills really transfer to the road. So when you're in what could be quite a dangerous situation, with a patch of gravel or something, or just someone cuts you up or whatever, those sort of urgent, at the edge of grip kind of things that you have to do, you'll learn how to respond naturally. Your body will kind of pick up that sort of muscle memory of how to respond safely. So I'd recommend off-roading to anybody. Get a Honda Cub. get anything that helps you get out. That's the question. The question is not what's the best adventure bike to get. The question is, what is it going to take for us to really explore the world and to begin that process of getting out, and just enjoying where we are, flowing alongside the place that we're at. I flowed on this earlier. I went through a water, basically a sheep dip that was a little bit deeper than I was expecting. So yeah, I've enjoyed the world a little bit more than I intended to, and I now have mud all over my arse. But on the plus side, I mean, yeah, if you're going to have mud, it makes sense to be on your arse, I suppose.